Hello and welcome to Walkie-Talkie number 5. I am on a small forest road in the Julian Alps in Slovenia. I guess you wouldn't say it from what you see behind me, but that is how it is. And I won't explain how I got here now, that would make this talk too long. But it's a lovely forest road. It will open up into the valley soon. And the mountains here are just gorgeous and amazing. I hadn't been to this area before, to the Julian Alps, and it's really magnificent. It's been such a pleasure to be here this week and to witness this landscape changing with the times of day. It's totally different in the morning than it is in the evening or the afternoon. And the night after I arrived here, there was a lot of snow falling on the mountaintops, which totally changed the view. Some of that snow has melted again, but some is staying, I suppose, for the whole winter. And a lot of snow will be added to that in the coming weeks, I suppose. So it's wonderful here, and I'm happy to take you along this walk. And what I wanted to talk about this time is continuing on what I was talking about last time. That is to say, the way we project maps onto the world, and how our culture in particular has projected a lot of mechanistic maps onto the world. The map of the selfish gene machine we have projected onto the natural world, onto living organisms. And that map sort of says that living organisms, plants, insects, animals, trees, are nothing more than machines that blindly follow the orders of the selfish genes, and the selfish genes just want to reproduce as much as possible in fierce competition with everything else. So that map also says that competition is the basis of development of life, and that is kind of merciless, and it's a battle of all against all, and that's how it is. Tough luck, deal with it. But contemporary science and biology have largely determined that view to be completely wrong. Organisms are not machines. They do not blindly follow orders from the genes. And forests like this are incredibly complex beings in their own right, where the total is more than the sum of the parts. And contemporary biology sees far more into the complexity of all this, the myriad connections there are between all the individual organisms, the plants, the insects, the life underground, mycelium, fungi, earthworms, bacteria. So it's the complexity is beyond description, really. And that is probably a reflection of the beauty we see. I think beauty and complexity are related. Not complicatedness, that's another thing, complexity. The difference is important, but I'll get to that in another walkie-talkie. And so we know now that this is wrong, this map. And so contemporary biology and systems theory uses a far more delicate map, far more intricate, far more detailed, with far more recognition of the complexity of everything that is happening in a being like this in a forest. And but now I would like to get into the next level, and this gets really interesting. Even when we talk about the complexity of all this and we recognize the subtlety of all these relationships within nature, the harmony between all these elements within a natural setting, within a system, within an ecosystem. Even then, we're still using a map. Be it a better map than the mechanistic one, than the one that said that all of nature is simply selfish gene machine. Far better map that will be of much greater use to us to navigate our way in the natural environment and find a balance with it. But still, we have to realize that even that is still a map. And that as soon as we stop projecting any map onto the natural world, the distinctions between individual things kind of vanishes. Where does the mycelium end and the tree begin? Where does the tree end and the sky begin? What is the tree without sunlight? And then it becomes really fascinating, kind of mind-boggling too, because our mind likes maps, needs maps. Like we need to know where we're going, we need to know where the edges are of things, we like to know where we're at. But I think at least part of the time we should remember that any distinction between things is an abstraction and a concept and a map. Alan Watts, the great philosopher and ecological thinker, used to have a great story about that. He was talking about the seminar he gave to a group of school children, and he asked them the question, what is a thing? What is a thing? And the children came up with all kinds of answers. You know, they said things like, a thing is an object, which is basically a synonym. It doesn't explain anything. And then one girl, a smart girl, raised her hand and said, a thing is a noun. And that may well be the only correct answer. A thing is a noun, meaning a thing is a concept, an abstraction, which has no reality in the world out there, only in our minds. And as I said, it's not useless to have these abstractions and distinctions in order to have a map, to have some idea what we're doing. But nevertheless, it is an abstraction. And in reality, there are no such things as things. Something the great neuropsychiatrist Ian McGilchrist also alluded to with the title of his great book, The Matter with Things, which is a double pun because it also talks about matter and about things. Because there's a lot to talk about the subject of matter as well, because that's also making a thing out of something that isn't. If you can still follow me, please bear with me, this is really interesting. So what this points to is that everything I see here is one continuum. There's no real distinction, and you can't really take things out of it and have them still exist in the same way. You know, take me off this planet and I'm dead in a second. Take the trees out of this setting and they will be not the same trees. They will probably die. All of them need the air and the sunlight, but that means they need the solar system, which means they need the universe basically, which means that it's an abstraction to separate the plants I'm looking at from the entirety of the universe, which is kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around, and you don't have to try that right away, but eventually I would like you to try it. To try the idea that there is no distinction possible between any thing we perceive as a thing within this entire universe. That everything is one continuum, ourselves included. Like I am a part of this Earth, a part of this solar system, and a part of this Milky Way galaxy, and a part of the local group of galaxies, and by extension, I'm a part of the universe, and so are you. And to think that we are separate from the universe, like that we're kind of alien here, that somehow, kind of by accident, we ended up here by this strange evolution and selfish gene thing, and we're kind of lost in this hostile universe. So I would like to invite you to from time to time, to try to think about that differently. And I will often remind you of this in the coming walkie-talkies, because I think it's quite essential to what I'm wanting to get across with the Biosphere project. I think the basis of our problem of finding the right balance with the biosphere is not even so much overpopulation, industrialization, pollution, you name it. I think it's something deeper than that, and I'm not the first one who says that, of course. but that information still scarcely reaches the mainstream. I think the real problem is how we project a map onto everything. The map is off. In any case, it's a bad map. It's been a bad map. Well, it's been useful for our certain phase of our development, but I think now we really need a different map. Didn't I just say that every map is kind of defective and not really acknowledging the fact that everything is one? Yes, but we also need to have footholds or boundaries in order to have a functioning society, and in order to have science, and in order to have technology, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with technology. There's nothing wrong with civilization. But the thing is, we need to be able to shift between that view and the recognition that in the end, everything there is one organism, which we are an integral part of. And it's one thing to understand this on a cognitive level. It's another thing to really feel it in an embodied sense. And that's where I would like to get towards with the Biosphere project. And that's why I would like to develop kind of exercises that might help in feeling that, rather than just knowing it cognitively. You may hear some sounds of civilization because I'm approaching the little town where I'm close to. It's nested in the middle of the valley, and I will show it to you, this beautiful valley. And with that image of the valley, I will say goodbye for now. And will be continued in the next Walkie-Talkie. Thank you. Namaste. So here is the promised epilogue to my Walkie-Talkie. An overview of the valley I'm in. You see an old farmhouse there. It's a rather big flat valley surrounded by huge mountains. And it used to be a lake bed, I learned. Of course, it's been dry for many tens of thousands of years by now. But this used to be a huge alpine lake. So now you get more of a sense of the scale of things. I have the sun opposite here, and that makes it kind of more difficult to see the scale of those mountains. These are high peaks, not as high as the peaks in Austria or Italy or Switzerland. But actually, speaking of Italy, this peak on the right hand side there, right besides the tree line, that's in Italy. The border runs right across that mountain ridge. So Italy is really close by. And with this image I would like to say goodbye. This gorgeous scenery, and you know, pointing back to my talk, remembering that everything you see here is one continuum. As soon as we talk about the valley, the mountain, the sun, the clouds, I'm kind of making an abstraction of things, which is useful to talk about them, but from time to time we need to remember that all of this is one marvelous, uninterrupted continuum, whose main characteristic, if you ask me, is its magnificent beauty. And with that I say goodbye. See you in the next Walkie-Talkie. Thank you and namaste.